Welcome back to a new day, guys. So yeah, what I'm doing at the minute, as you can see, I'm a bit messy and sweaty. Just to get started for today, basically I thought I'd get started on the exhaust system that's just down in the middle basically. So I'm trying to get the catalytic converter off and the downpipe with the lamp sensor basically. So I can get all that section off the mid center and basically just take it apart, because the cat that's on there at the minute is just a cheapy old cat that was basically borderline failing emissions. So I want to take that off, put a better one on so that it can pass the emissions easier, and then when we come to race it, we'll put we'll take this one off and we'll smash the cat out of this to basically straight pipe it for the when we take it on track days. So yeah, that's the plan today so far. So I'm going to take the other bolt off. I've had to cut the bolts off with a grinder because you can't get to them. It's all seized up with the impact. So I'm cutting them off at the minute. So I'll come back to you. I've got one off, but I'll come back to you when I've got it off, and then we'll get on the workbench and I'll show you what I mean. Right, guys. So we've got the exhaust manifold off with the cat and the lamp sensor that we wanted to get off. So I'll just cut the other bolt off because it was just completely seized in there basically. And then the other issue I want to get off basically with this, like I was saying before, the drive shaft sits against this. So this is where it was basically wearing on here, and then the clips eventually come off and then it spilt the grease everywhere. So we need to modify this heat shield slightly that's on here. Maybe cut out this small section here and just give some more clearance, maybe even hammer it in. I might give it a hammer first and see if we can get anywhere with that. And as you can see, the rest of it's pretty crusty. This lamp sensor came with the car 4 years ago, so this could be a problem as well. So we're going to swap everything out. We're going to get all new gaskets, new bolts, new hardware. Now, the bolts are even loose on this part of it, so it could be that was causing the problem. But I know this cat as well is a real cheap one and it barely passed the emissions last time, so I want to get a better cat. But for now, we might be able to use this to take off after the MOT and put it on for the race days, track days and things like that. We can straight pipe it basically. So we'll either cut this section out and then we'll just join a bit of pipe through there, and then yeah, and then we'll just basically join them together, and we'll have a decat basically, nice and cheap, nice and simple, and relatively inexpensive. So yeah, so we'll do that as well. And then what we'll do is we'll clean this manifold up, we'll get this heat shield off perhaps, and then we'll give it all a lick of paint and clean it up a bit so that it doesn't rust all the way through. I have thought about getting a 421 manifold for this. The only issue is with that, the quality's questionable, and this has been on the car for over 20 years, and yeah, it looks crusty and a bit manky. Same with the manifold, the top half that comes off the engine. It's really robust and really sturdy, so I'm a bit like, I want the reliability and the quality there from the OEM, which you can't buy them brand new anymore anyway. We'll clean them off and we'll get them painted so it will protect them a bit longer and it'll last a lot longer. So, because the only other option, like I say, is a stainless steel one, but you're looking at least £480, £450, something like that, along those lines. And then I've heard of them cracking, so I don't really want that to happen after a couple of years, because that is a pain in the arse, because the exhaust manifold's at the back of the engine and there's just no clearance there basically. So it's tricky to sort of, you know, replace it in the future if need be. So, and a lot of money for something that, you know, should last a bit longer than a few years. So this is like I say, it's done, I think it's touching nearly 25 years, 1995, yeah, so it's nearly 25 years old and it's still going strong. So it's just a bit crusty, welds are strong, nice and decent, OEM quality. So yeah, I'm going to tackle this now, go from there and see what we can get out of it. Right now, so we've separated the cap to the actual exhaust manifold. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this lambda sensor out as well, and then just go from there. Basically, I'm probably going to cut these clips off up here and maybe put in some new bolts. Just thinking whether it's worth actually doing it or not, because obviously they're so seized in there that they're not going anywhere. So I'm just thinking probably might be able to take them out. Let's see if we can take them out anyway, but we'll get this off. Okay guys, so with some gentle persuasion from the impact gun, the blowtorch, and a couple of different sockets, and my very improvised extension bar, we've managed to get the lamb sensor out. We did snap off the end, but that's alright, because like I say, we are going to get another one. It's just the only way I could actually get the impact on it was to snap this off, because it just wasn't coming off with any leverage, so I was going to have to use power tools. So yeah, we heated it up. That definitely helped it to get it sort of loosened and get all the rust out of it. Like I say, this lamb sensor's been in here since I've owned the car, and I've owned the car like 4 or 5 years, so I doubt that was put in brand new when I first got it, so that could be at least 8 years, 6 years old. So yeah, I'm glad I got it out. Now we just need to keep reference of that's the plug that we need for the new one, because there are so many variants of these things. So yeah, so that's what we need, and then that's the other end there that's snapped off, and then that's the probe that's still left in there. So yeah, it's still very hot, but that's it there basically. So yeah, look, you can see how crusty it is on top. Like, there was barely any hex pattern to it, so it was rounding off here, and you can just see that was so heavily pitted. That definitely wasn't, you know, a year old, like say. That is definitely past its best. But we got it out, we didn't damage anything here, so that's good. And I've just cleaned it up with some WD-40 just to loosen up any of the rust there. So yeah, we're moving on, we're getting things done. Like I say, I just need to tackle this drive shaft issue that's on the other side of this now, and go from there. So yeah, we've managed to get those heat shields off, guys. So as you can see from the clips there, basically I've got a dilemma. Do I stick the original exhaust heat shields back on, where one of the clips is quite crusty, and we got the potential problem of the drive shaft clip on the driver's side is scraping against it for whatever reason. I don't know why it's hitting it, but I've hit it with a hammer and I've got a little bit more clearance. I'm not sure if I'm completely happy with it, and it could be too late after we've installed it all back. So I've got a bit of a dilemma with that one. I am thinking of just get some heat wrap to go around this basically, and wrap it in that, where it'd be a lot lower profile than those together. So that's what I'm thinking, and could potentially be a lot better overall. So yeah, I'm gonna have a look anyway. I'm gonna have a look how much heat wrap is, get some heat wrap, get some ties and stuff, so we can do it all properly, tie it up really nicely, and go from there really. So I'm hoping that'll work, and then we can use a much better clip to hold that drive shaft clip on, because the last thing you want is all the CV grease coming up and breaking an axle basically. That's worse than having a heat soak issue. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking anyway, guys. It's either that, or I could heat wrap this with the wrap, and I could cut a section out of the exhaust manifold so that it clears it completely. I could do that, and then it's doubly insulated. either way I need some heat wrap anyway, so yeah, let's go with that. We'll get some heat wrap, and I'm going to get some, should I get some paint? I don't know if I get some paint. I might give this a lick of paint so it's not so crusty. Yeah, let's see if we got some paint for that. I might have some heat-proof paint. Got some high temperature engine enamel paint here. Got some red and I got some black. We could do it with this. Yeah, I might have enough in this. So it's for brake. Well, it's for, yeah, it's engine enamel paint, I suppose. So it goes up to 300 Celsius, which I'm hoping it is okay for this. Yeah, we'll give it a lick of paint. We'll do that now. Give it a lick of paint, and then we'll go from there basically. So yeah, it's just protecting the welds a little bit more from the rust and the corrosion on it. So still pretty good. I've had this for years. God, I think this can's probably about 10 years old. I've used it to do a few brake calipers, and that's about it. So it's done me well. So yeah, we'll give it a lick of paint of this, high temperature and engine enamel, and we'll go from there. There we go, guys. So yeah, the exhaust manifold's all painted and looking really good. So I've got some high heat engine enamel paint just there. So yeah, it's looking really good. So that's gonna clean it up a lot nicer. There you go, see the gloss on it there. So I'm just gonna let this dry basically. It takes like 2 hours or so to dry, but I'm gonna leave it overnight. So yeah, I won't be refitting it anytime soon anyway, because I need to order some parts. So I need to get the lamp sensor, the new catalytic converter, and some heat shield. So we're going to get some heat shield wrap to go around all this, and then hopefully that should help eliminate any issues we get. So yeah, we're going to do that, and then I might put one of these, like put these back on again, and then just cut out the area. So then that'll hold the heat wrap as well, just to stop it if it does sag and come unloose. That can hold it together, and also it acts as a second layer of, of heat trap basically. So it's sort of a win-win really back there, because the brake lines are all behind this as well. So it'd be nice to sort of have them all wrapped up and make sure we don't get any issues like that anyway. So yeah, it's a bit of a win-win with that. Yeah, and we need to get a new lambda sensor, a new gasket kit, things like that basically. All the nut and bolts, because all the nut and bolts you saw I had to cut off, so they're going to be replaced. So yeah, that's about it really. I can't really touch this anymore, like I say, 'cause I need to let it dry completely. But it's looking really good. It looks really nice. It's just literally one layer of this Halfords engine enamel paint, and yeah, it's looking pretty clean for what it is. I'm not expecting it to look amazing, but it just tidies it up, doesn't it? It's simple quick fix for rusty parts. So, and obviously it's got the benefit of being heat proof, so it's not gonna just burn off in seconds, so that's good. The only other thing I have to show you today, which I'll wrap up for the rest of this video, is if we can get, okay, we're not getting through that. We managed to get, we was working on the engine bay for a little while, and we managed to get the rest of the engine bay buttoned up, and yeah, it's looking really, really good. So there it is. The camera's probably not doing it much justice, but we've colour coded it with the red capsicum red, which is part of the bodywork, so you can see there. So it's looking really nice and fresh now, really clean. And yeah, we've done all the strut towers, all underneath the engine mount, the chassis legs, all over that side as well, the front rail, and then same again that side, and all the firewall, we did all that. So there's lots of overspray and bits and pieces, So it's not going to look fantastic and amazing and perfect, because this isn't a show car, obviously. It's just to tidy things up. I had a little bit of loose rust in certain places, so I wire-walled it all back and cleaned it up with a wire brush, and then just colour coded it the same as the car. You won't see half of it anyway when the engine's back in, because the engine takes up most of the space in that bay. But it just looks better. It looks tidier, looks nicer, and just protects the engine bay a little bit more from any rust and corrosion. So yeah, so that's about it really, guys. I'm not going to be doing a lot more else today. It's just a case of waiting for funds to come in, basically. It's coming to the end of the month and I need to wait for some funds to come in, basically, because as you know, obviously we're stripping down that engine, which is just behind there, and that's going to need quite a lot of money put into it to get that sorted. But yeah, that's about it really, guys. So I just need to sort of go through an itinerary list and just break down absolutely everything I need, which is unbelievable amount of parts that I just want to replace. Every sort of nut, bolt, sensor, anything that can possibly cause an issue, which at a later date I do not need to change, because if for whatever reason it goes wrong, then half these things like the sensors and stuff, I can't get to them without ripping the engine out or tearing the whole engine down in the engine bay. Just to do it out of the car was an absolute nightmare. I've got plenty of tools, as you can see behind me, adapters and things like that, and weight tricks and tools and stuff like that to get things off, but it took a good, I'd say, 5 to 6 hours just to get the inlet manifold off and all the accessories and ancillaries around it, the hoses, and it's still not complete. So yeah, it's taken some time just to break that down alone, just because everything was manky and horrible, and just how it was built, it was just so, I don't know, they've like overcomplicated how many bits need to be on this engine. It's just crazy. Like I don't think I've worked on a car of this, you know, a cheap Renault that, you know, I've had Saxos and 106s and things like that, and none of them were as hard as this to sort of work on around the engine bay. So, but it is what it is, and like I say, I've just got to go through it methodically and break it all down. Then we're going to tear the engine down, basically. That'll be the next thing, and we'll go through the complete head, and we'll do the whole bottom end as well and replace all the bearings in the bottom end, and I'll show you guys every step. But obviously these things take time and take money, and I'm just, a lot of the time as well is I'm trying to research the parts, and you get a lot of cross references with the years, and it's hard to find out exactly which one it is. Like there's a simple thing, like there's 2 cam cover gaskets basically, and they look identical, but one is slightly different from whatever year it is. I don't know if it's the picture just misleading, but there's like a slight imprint in the actual layout. Like there's a little square notch on one of them, I think it is, that it looks different to another one that I referenced. So it's a case of I can only get the parts once I start breaking down bits to do it. But then I don't want to break down bits and have it just spread out throughout my shed and just be lost within all of this. So it's just a case of trying to be methodical and not lose anything, because like I say, if it takes me 6 hours to rip things apart, it's probably going to take more like 8 hours to put it all back together. So because it's easier to tear things apart than it is to actually thingy. But like I say, I've got a whole box of parts down there, so that's all for that. I've got to go through that whole inlet manifold to sort that out. And yeah, that's about it, guys. So yeah, if you like the video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe if you're new around here, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.